Good morning. We'd like to welcome you to the Be More News Morning Show. My name's Donnie Glover, publisher of BmoreNews.com, and we have with us the one and only Cadet Minor Kane. Good morning, Miss Kane.
Good morning, Mr. Glover. How are you today?
Blessed by the best. No need to be stressed. Keep my head to the sky. No need to cry because ain't nobody going to listen. No way. Mr. Wayne Frazier, Maryland, Washington Minority Companies Association. How are you?
Oh, man. I recovered from Saturday night's defeat up in Buffalo.
Oh, it was so painful.
It only took one day. And I realized that they did the best they could. It's just that when it comes to big moments, their coaching lets us down.
Good morning, Marsha Hughes. How are you?
Good morning. I'm fabulous. How's everybody?
Good. Good morning.
Marsha Hughes, don't you want to tell us about the banner behind you?
The banner behind me, the Black Engineer of the Year Awards Conference, and it's coming up February 11th through the 13th. It's all virtual, and all you have to do is go to BEYA, BEYA.org. And in there, you will find all of the different happenings going on. They have the historically Black college, universities, HBCU, family, what is it? It's not a family reunion. What is it?
The Black Engineer of the Year Awards, the HBCU.
HBCU. One more time. HBCU.
Marsha, I see we're having some bit of a challenges this morning.
We're having a challenge this morning because I had to deal with some madness earlier, and here I am. But forget about that. The whole weekend is really about bringing people in. There are opportunities for careers. You're going to have people, major corporations that will be there that are literally hiring. You'll have HBCUs who will be talking about everything from, just what's going on within their own institutions. They have the HBCU Village. There's so much. I'm really concerned about our students. College students have been coming in and they are getting interns. They spend time with corporations talking about their future. When you go to BEYA, BEYA.org, it's really, really powerful. And I think that this has been going on for 35 years. And they are headquartered in Baltimore. Dr. Tyrone Taborn and his team have been focused on STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math. They have 3 publications, the Black Engineer and Information Technology magazine. They have the Women of Color in STEM, and they have Hispanic Engineer and Information Technology magazine as well. And they have this other program that's part of their foundation called the Technology Awareness Program, the TAP program, where they have programs going on to get communities involved in technology, science, technology, engineering, and math. And it's really powerful. And when you look at today, where a lot of our children do not have access to computers, they do not have access to the internet, we're talking about things that Career Communications Group that owns this business has been talking about since the mid-90s. And so here we are in 2020 having the same conversation about the digital divide. And it's frightening to me. So if we're looking at all of the jobs going into the STEM environment, then why don't we have children learning how to use computers and having access to computers to do their schoolwork? That is powerful. And it's frightening because depending on your zip code, you don't have access. Depending on your income, you don't have access. And so we need to be really thinking about this. But it's also about BEYA has been on the forefront of pushing out the digital divide and getting people interested in the digital divide and giving people employment within the STEM fields. So it's BEYA.org. hbcu.org, and you'll find everything you need to know about the HBCU Village and all of the other activities and the career fairs.
Okay, let me just add that this segment of the BmoreNews Morning Show is brought to you by one of our sponsors, BEYA.org, the Black Engineer of the Year Awards. The upcoming BEYA conference is scheduled for February 11th through the 13th, featuring 3 important events that we invite you to learn more about, including the HBCU Homecoming, the HBCU Village, the K-12 Village. To learn more, just go to BEYA.org, BEYA.org. How do we do there, Marcia?
I think that was a nice little addition, Donnie. Why didn't you start off with that? That was wonderful. Thank you.
But my co-host was a little tardy.
My co-host had a little problem. Your co-host had a little problem. So, but we're here. We're here. And we're grateful to be here today. And I see some familiar faces. Hey, Kavette, how you doing?
I'm good. Great to see you as well.
Great to see you. And Mr. Frazier, how are you? Over there rocking and rolling.
Not too well. Not too well at all.
What's wrong, Mr. Frazier?
What?
I'm still stuck in my home.
Oh, you don't go anywhere either?
It's miserable.
Okay, I'll be right back.
Why is it miserable, Mr. Frazier?
Because all during my previous 67 years, I enjoyed the freedom of going and coming, doing as I pleased. Now, the mere fact of being around a group of people, even my family members, who don't practice social distancing, who don't mask up, I don't even want to be around them. And sometimes I feel guilty, but I know that I'm practicing the safest practice so I can see year 68.
So have you been following? Let me ask you, on that note, do you have plans of taking the experimental drug?
Yeah. As soon as my health provider, which is Johns Hopkins, as soon as they notify me, I will be down there that day. Yes. Even if it kills me, the fact is we can't maintain status quo. We have to move forward. And if this drug is the one, then by golly, I'm taking it. And I encourage everyone to.
You're muted, Donnie.
I'm erring on the side of caution, and I will be not in the first group. I will be one waiting and watching. How about you, Kavette? Will you be first in line?
I will not be first in line for the vaccine. There's a lot of history behind this kind of thing, and I'm going to be very cautious. I will say that for myself, it's just been a personal choice not to receive these kinds of vaccines. So I don't even get the flu vaccination every year. I can't put myself in harm's way in order to be protected. What I do is I take the additional precautions on my own to make sure that happens with my health and with making sure, just like you, Mr. Frazier, that I am staying away from family and friends who don't believe in masking up or social distancing. And that when I'm out of the house, I make sure that I keep my mask on, and I'm very cautious about using hand sanitizer on a regular basis and cleaning off the surfaces, not only outside what I have in contact with, but also when I come home, making sure that everything is clean.
Very good.
And so I want to say, just a brief moment, happy Martin Luther King Day, everyone.
Yes. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday.
I heard that song playing in my head this morning. Yeah.
Yeah, man. It's powerful.
Absolutely.
It's unfortunate that we had to lose him like that. But, here we are in a dangerous time. But he did what he was supposed to do. He met his assignment.
I was watching a little comedy last night, and this comedian said, "Can you imagine the guy trying to date Coretta Scott King?"
What?
Donnie.
Really?
Really?
How you gonna match up? She was married to Dr. King. You can't tell her about your dreams or nothing. Okay, anyway, let's get to the matter at hand.
Get to the matter at hand.
Black people. Okay.
Let me mute my phone.
You got one of them old phones or old ringer. What is that? That sounds like one of them phones that dial-up. That sounds like a dial-up phone.
I'm an old ringer, so what the heck? What do you expect?
You got the rotary joint.
He's in the
But that's how they sounded, didn't they? You know, they had to go around.
There are some kids that have absolutely no idea what we're talking about right now.
So this is a rotary. Hello, this is Wayne.
I have one.
Oh my.
It's Wayne Frazier.
Donnie, you taking me back.
We had a beige one in our house. It was in the dining room.
And don't forget,
I had a black one in my bedroom.
And don't forget the list that was taped to the wall.
That's
the what? The what?
The list of everybody's phone numbers, so you knew, what number to dial when you were calling. The ones that you didn't have already memorized, because then
Pauline didn't have it. Right? Pauline had a little box that you hit the button and it pops up and it has a whole little pictures in there, and it had everybody's. It was a little alphabetical thing.
And that's back when
the day of a phone book you actually held in your hand. Oh God.
Oh yeah, it was a trip, and it was loud.
That's back when they had letters in the numbers.
Correct.
That was back when we wrote in cursive handwriting.
Ooh. You remember that?
I do. I loved my grandmother's cursive. I still write in a mixture of cursive and print, my own little jazzy,
I still write in cursive when I'm writing. I do too. Mm-hmm. I do too.
Okay, we're gonna reel it back a bit.
We're gonna reel it back. So
come back in.
Back down memory lane is over. Memory lane is over. I think we should do that. That should be an open. Oh,
Mr. Frazier. Generally speaking, this is a very talented panel.
He already knows. And he's having a good time.
Who can go into any topic.
I can tell, because if he wasn't having a good time, he'd be cussing us out. He'd have been gone. Right? That I know.
Sorry, Donnie. We're pulling it back in. Mm-hmm. Back to the news at hand.
Mr. Frazier, here in the city of Baltimore, Black people comprise well over 50% of the population. Here in the state of Maryland, Blacks comprise 30% of the population. Yet when it comes to business, my understanding is that we get about 2% of the contracts at best in Baltimore City and in the state. Is that correct?
Well, it might be a little higher than 2%, but I don't imagine it's much higher than, say, 9%. Clearly on the state side and on Baltimore City, we don't know, because under the Pew and then Young and hopefully now Brandon Scott's administration, they don't prepare statistics, so we don't know what's going on. We can only surmise, and I can imagine, based upon the network that I have of principally African American contractors, that we're getting less and less and less.
So let's talk about it. Here in the city of Baltimore, there's a strong history of advocacy, not just in civil rights. When I think of the NAACP, we have the second oldest branch in the country, but also in the realm of business. Marsha used to work at the Douglas Myers Museum, the Douglas Myers Maritime Parking Museum, and it is named after not just Frederick Douglass, but also Isaac Myers, who was a ship caulker. And in the 1800s, he formed a union for Black caulkers. And this is the 1800s. I'm reminded of also over in East Baltimore, Joe Locke's funeral home.
Yep.
And my understanding is it is one of the oldest Black family businesses, if not the oldest, in America, dating back to approximately 1835.
Mm-hmm.
Slavery didn't end until 1865, but those of us who have studied and researched know that Baltimore had a strong anti-slavery bent, at least among Black people. We had the largest population of freed Blacks prior to the Civil War. So just beneath the Mason-Dixon line, Baltimore was certainly a rallying point, a place where Blacks came together. And if you're running from slavery, what better place to hide than in a city full of Black people?
Sure.
I think of the Oblate sisters, Mother Lang, Mary Lang, and St. Francis. I think of Ray Haysbert and Henry Parks, of Mr. Payne, Osborne Payne,
Yeah.
owner of McDonald's. But also, I think of Robert Lee Clay.
Yeah.
I think of Arnold Jolivet.
Yes.
I think of people who went down to City Hall, to the Board of Estimates meeting on Wednesday mornings, and they raised Cain, they raised Abel, and they raised anybody else they could so that Black people could get a fair piece of the pie. Now, it is my understanding that you have inherited the former MWMCA and added in or transformed it from contractors to companies, putting you in a position to serve even more Black people. So how goes it with the Maryland Washington Minority Companies Association? Who does, and I add in conclusion to this wonderful introduction, the largest minority, and I hate the word, largest minority business event in the state of Maryland?
Well, Donnie, you mentioned some luminaries of the past.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
You forgot one guy who started the old grocery store up at Liberty Heights, and I can't remember his name, but he was the first to establish an African American grocery store here in Baltimore. Then you have the Bill Marches of the world, who was his initial funding, believe it or not, of $100,000 in 1978 to found Harbor Bank, was the stimulus for George Russell to pursue his clients, which was John Padarakis and Lou Grassmick and others, luminaries, white luminaries, to inject money as well. So there is a strong history of African American achievements in business, but a weak history. Weak when I say, gosh, here we are, 2021, and we don't have any construction companies in the city of Baltimore, Gossa Mild here in the city of Baltimore, that have revenue over $20 million. None, not one. We don't have any major law firms. We don't have a major brokerage house. We do have Brown Capital Management, but they're not a brokerage house for you and I. They take funds from institutions, from state governments. The list goes on and on and on. Insurance companies, none. Marketing companies, none. I mean, it's just pathetic. It's underwhelming, and it's hurtful to know that my city that I chose to stay has been so poorly run and so poorly performed. There's no incentives whatsoever. The best way to uplift our companies is to establish a basic mentor protege program. If you do business with the city of Baltimore, you must, let's say it's $1 million or more contract, you must reach down and select an African American firm of the same ilk, and then as a major prime, a major white prime, then mentor them, teach them what we lack in addition to funds, is knowledge. We don't know how to run no business. We think we do, but we don't. We need to be taught that. It's a shame. I mean, it saddens me to stay here on your show that we lack the educational needs to be successful in business. Donnie, I could go on, but I don't want to doom the program.
You already made me sad. You might as well go all the way now.
So Wayne, what is Paul Taylor, that minority business what is that department? What are they supposed to be doing? What is their mission?
Well, you mean through the city of Baltimore?
Correct.
They are managed by the city's Department of Law. And as such, lawyers love them when you're in trouble, but are very cautionary. And they don't want to start any trouble. I think one of them said, if they don't start no trouble, won't be no trouble. Well, they have not taken an aggressive mode. I'll give you another example. The most recent largest project here in the city of Baltimore, Port Covington.
Mm-hmm.
They received $627 million in public financing known as a TIF.
Yep.
Tax incremental financing. It's a huge giveaway. And part of the community benefits agreement was that they establish a robust mentor protege program. And to this freaking day, Paul Taylor, you all know him, under the city, has failed to deliver one successful mentor protege. Therefore, with Port Covington, Port Covington should not be entitled to receive. They received their first $130 million draw from the TIF program. They should not be able to receive that until they and a lot of the programs that a lot of the construction that has been carried out has been performed. So, but there's still opportunities to gain, but they haven't done a thing. And that's
who's supposed to manage that? Who's supposed to be tracking that and verifying that?
Paul Taylor. That's his job. And he failed it. And I can only see millions and millions and millions of dollars in lost opportunities because of it.
That's like a city down there.
Hold on, Marsha. Let me ask you this. When it comes to the COVID relief funds, was criticism pointed at Mr. Taylor as it relates to resources getting to Black businesses in Baltimore also?
Well, that I'm not sure, Donnie, because I don't have any statistical data to refer to, but I do know this.
Let me ask you like this. COVID relief monies came to Baltimore for Black businesses?
I don't know, Donnie. I know that there were loan funds that the city attempted to make available through this group called Lendistry. But again,
I thought Harbor Bank had money specifically for Black businesses. I thought Stanley Tucker, Meridian Management Group, also had money specifically for COVID relief.
Well, Donnie, if they did, they sure kept it a secret, because it's my job to know where those funds were. And none of those groups had broadcasted, come to us, we have funds. Not one. And I know all of the banks that were doing it, and they were lending to their own customers and not anyone else. So I had to go to brokers who charge fees outside of it to get funds for our contractors. But no, they did a poor job in conveying that they had those funds for African-American firms.
Why is that? Why is that? Why is there a disconnect with the funding institutions and our minority organizations?
I would say that they fail to understand the importance of marketing, communication, advertising. They fail to. And it may cost a few dollars to get your message out, but they feel that their networks are strong enough that they don't have to get out into the general. Heck, they don't even advertise in the Afro or the Baltimore Times, let alone me. But the point is, they just don't understand the importance of communication. That's the way I see it.
So is that why you made this statement? You said that Blacks don't know how to run a business. Is that where that's coming from?
No, that's a whole different thing.
Okay, who are we blaming here? I just want to be clear, Mr. Frazier. Who is not doing their job?
Where?
As it relates to the COVID relief funds, what have you?
I would say this, that the Baltimore City, we're talking about Baltimore City has this group called the Baltimore Development Corporation, the BDC. And they also have a group that's not necessarily an agency of Baltimore City, but I believe it's called the Don Fry heads it up.
Greater Baltimore Committee.
GBC.
Yeah, those two groups. Those two groups have failed in reaching down to move and assist the growth of principally African-American firms here in the city.
I'm sorry, have they ever been helpful to Black businesses?
I mean, I've only been around for a minute, but I don't ever see, I hate to say it, but I've never seen them.
Well, you shouldn't be hate to say it, because one, GBC, headed by Don Fry, he used to be he's a former delegate in the House of Delegates in Annapolis, and he's a Democrat. And I remember him specifically when Nick Mosby was in Annapolis pushing the ban the box legislation that Don Fry opposed. I also remember BDC because we had a councilman, Leon Pinkett. Before he was a councilman, he worked for BDC. And I think the first and only project that they ever did in West Baltimore or any of the Black Butterfly was the sit-down restaurant, was it TGIF up there in Mondawmin? Is that correct?
Yeah, right. And hardly know
that as it relates to a majority Black city with a majority of Black elected officials serving a majority of Black people, I don't see BDC or GBC, Baltimore Development Corporation or Greater Baltimore Committee, doing anything to improve the quality of life in East and West Baltimore, notoriously known as the Black Butterfly.
So what I've seen with the GBC, it's more of a more sophisticated, it's like a chamber, where the BDC, the Baltimore Development Corporation, is an arm of sorts for the city of Baltimore because they work hand in hand with the mayor. So you have a private nonprofit versus a quasi-government agency. So to me, and I've always had a problem with BDC, the Baltimore Development Corporation, developing Black businesses. And that's part of what they're supposed to be doing. They're supposed to be teaming up and creating the best relationships to do whatever needs to be done and filling in those gaps. That's what I understood, versus something that has a leadership program and they have all these other programs, quote unquote, for the enhancement and the development of their employees, of all these members. It's a membership organization, which is a little different. And not saying that they shouldn't have some sort of responsibility or some sort of commitment to my Black community, but the BDC certainly does, because that's part of their charter, like the libraries, quasi-city agency as well. But that's my understanding.
Marsha, the Baltimore Development Corporation is actually an outgrowth of what was once known as the loan and guarantee program of Baltimore City, which was operated by two people designated as city trustees. This all happened under William Donald Schaefer.
Okay.
It was the city treasurer and Charlie Benton were the trustees of the loan and guarantee program. They used to refer to it as the so-called shadow government.
Shadow government, yes.
It was created so that the mayor, then Schaefer, could get things done without having to seek approval from the legislative body of the city, which is, of course, the city council.
Okay.
Baltimore Development Corporation is a quasi-governmental organization and is subject to open meeting laws, as they found out some years ago in litigation. The members of the board of directors of BDC are now and always have been appointed by the mayor, and they have never, nor am I aware that it was ever part of their mission to encourage the development of small or minority business in particular. They're essentially an extension of the city's marketing arm to try to encourage new businesses to come into the city or existing businesses to expand. But they've never had it as part of their goal or mission specifically to assist Black-owned businesses. That's never been part of their business. And let me go back a little bit. I heard in an earlier program we talked about supermarkets. Actually, the first Black owner of a supermarket in Baltimore City was Charlie Burns.
That's the one. That's the
Charlie who?
And after Charlie Burns came Henry Bain, Stop Shop and Save.
Yeah, I remember him.
And then after Stop Shop and Save came a one-store owner called Our Supermarket on Pennsylvania Avenue that was started by a lady named Lena Boone in the Upton Planning Committee years ago. And eventually Burns was hired to manage it and eventually took over the store. I'm not even sure if the store is even still open today, but it was funded as a youth development project. In fact, it was funded as an ESOP. The idea was it would take neighborhood kids, give them jobs, give them an ownership interest in the company, and after time, they would actually become the owners of the facility. We had a number of youth come in, but unfortunately none stayed long enough to even for their stock ownership to become vested or to become the owners or managers of the store. And there was another, and actually the first minority business organization for contractors was, and still exists, by the way, is the Maryland Minority Contractors Association, which is chaired by Ples Jones. That was the organization that Robert Clay helped to start, and that, in fact, was the organization that hired Arnold Jolivet as an executive director many years. In fact, I'm the one who hired him. When his company, Jolly had a company called Management Trainers and Consultants, Inc., that went out of business, and during the time when he was not otherwise engaged, in other words, he didn't have a job, we hired him to be the executive director of MMC.
You know, I think this is really interesting. You know, one of the Sankofa bird walks forward but looks back, that you really need to know your history to see your future.
Exactly.
Right. And this is really great intel. And what I think is very interesting is that we have a brand new mayor. And it just seems that these conversations need to be almost packaged, right, for a presentation to sit down and talk about what's the future, what's the vision for Black businesses in this community, in this administration. I couldn't agree with you more, but it's not just this administration. Our problem is we too often start to go somewhere without knowing where it is we're supposed to be when we get there. If you don't start with the end in mind, you'll never know if you arrive at where you want it to be. Well, I think that knowing is you want people to have contracts, right?
For so long, politically, the idea of making something better has been set sufficient. We've never had a goal to make it right.
What's right?
And when you set the bar that low, it's really for the benefit of those who are creating the program, not for the benefit of those who are supposed to be helped by the program. In other words, it's called a social program, which of course means it's discretionary. I give it and then I can take it away whenever I want. I can measure how much you get, and when I think you got too much, I can just turn the faucet off. That's a social program. The ultimate problem is the minority business program was never intended to be a subcontracting or loan program. It was never, but that's what it's morphed into. Every MBE program in the world is nothing more than a subcontracting program. There's a presumption made that Black folk that can't acquire, don't have, and more importantly, we're not going to give or allow them to have access to the resources necessary to compete at the prime contractor level for the most part. There are a few companies, I would differ with Wayne a little bit. There are at least 3 companies, black companies today, that do have annual revenues in excess of $20 million. But there's only 3.
2.
That's okay. You think it's still make 2, 3. The point is, it's significantly less than what there should be, given the long history that there is of MBE programs in Baltimore City, which go all the way back, even to predate even Paradential's involvement in the thing. It goes, somebody, you might remember a guy named Sam Daniels.
Yeah.
Yes.
Way back.
And he was serious. He did not play with people. The Mason, he did not play with people at all. He was
that is
straight up no
correct.
chaser, and that's what we need. But it's really a strategy. And how do you develop that strategy to then make that strategy collectively to the new administration? To sit down and say, here's what we need. This is how we're going to do it. But it has to be done. It has to be planned. It has to be packaged and then presented.
Well, let me just pose this. I heard this mayor say during one of the interviews when he was a candidate that his uncle or family member owned Cold Spring Heating and Air, and that he was aware of the challenges facing black businesses.
His uncle is right. Harold Scott is the owner of Cold Spring. In fact, Brandon's father, I think, works for it.
So I got the impression that he had a working knowledge of what black businesses face, Mr. Frazier.
Well, I don't think having an uncle or a father that works for a black company gives you an intimate knowledge of a company that you've never worked for.
That's what he said.
It gives you an intimate knowledge of anything except who your
Well,
family
you don't know if he may have worked there as a kid, so you don't know what he knows. Don't be dismissing him.
Well,
He may know.
Cold Spring Company has been a client of mine for almost since Brandon was born.
Okay.
So
I mean, still doesn't mean he doesn't know.
You're right. Maybe he did work there during the summer, but in the 25 or 30 years that I've represented him, I've never come into contact with him as a representative of the company or as an employee of the company in any capacity. That's all I can say.
But that doesn't mean that they didn't have conversations on Sunday.
It certainly does not. It certainly does not.
Anyway, I think a package needs to be developed and presented. And so what I like about you, Wayne Frazier, is you have how many members?
Well, I have over 200 corporate members, and the rest of the folk, small business folk, I don't take membership because. Okay.
So how many minority people are your members?
It's about 20,000. We call them e-subscribers. Those who receive our weekly e-newsletters and notifications about opportunities and so forth.
But they're active in your organization and the things that you do, and they receive. And so the point that I'm making, if you've got even 150 or 200 of them, if you were to say the top 100 or 200 minority businesses that have a membership with your organization, and you could sit down and have a conversation with them about what they need, where you could present a strategy and a strategic plan for the city on how to start and really get their programming up and running. So, or to develop a program that would be acceptable.
I've done that.
Okay, so now you have a new administration, and what do you think were the areas that you had problems with?
Well, simply when we're talking about city procurement, number one is getting folks paid. They can win opportunities, but if the city does not enforce the utilization of those same firms that have been listed as subcontractors, as Bob said, because they can't be primes, as subcontractors, the city doesn't even enforce to make sure that the major primes, principally in the waterworks department, because that's where the majority of the spend is occurring, they are not enforcing that those primes, those major white primes, they're all white primes, they don't enforce the utilization of the minority firms. There's list of contractors that I know that have not been used. And Bob, you know them too.
Can I pose this question? Is it true is it true that Tamara Brown, who was working in the MBE office, was fired because she was fining primes for not having black subs, minority subs?
Well, I don't know if she was fired because of that, but I do know that she created a historical preference when she fined a major out-of-state white-owned waterwork for not utilizing 3 African-American firms to the tune of $2.5 million in contract opportunities lost. $2.5 million. They were named, but were not used, and she discovered it. She recommended a fine under the Young administration. And guess what? To this day, it was a measly $40,000 fine. The city still hasn't imposed that. Still hasn't to this day.
So
that
what's
is
the process
that
of getting
is,
it in front of the new mayor?
Hold up, Marsha. Hold up, Mr. DeShields.
that is a true story. And the fact of the matter is, in the history of the MBE program, and I'm going to start with the history after it was codified and made law, not during the time prior to that when it was just a Board of Estimates resolution. But in the history, since the law was first enacted, that was when Jackie McLean was president of the city council, if you remember that name.
That was a while ago. Yeah.
That was a while back.
Whoa.
Since the law was first enacted, there haven't been 5 firms that have been penalized in any way for violations of the law. There haven't been 5. There haven't been 5. So now wait a minute. Now Tamara did recommend the fine. She recommended, in fact, a much higher fine.
Yes.
But it's up to the Board of Estimates to enforce it.
Yes.
So when you say that these laws haven't been enforced, you're talking about the lack of political will to do something.
Yes.
And that lack of political will, I mean, it goes all the way. I can't tell you. In fact, it's never been there. In fact, in reality, now whether Mayor Scott brings a new, fresh look at it, he's not going to face any new problems because there's nothing new under the sun. The issues are the same today. The fundamental problem in the growth of black business is the system that rewards companies that got it by having contracts awarded solely on the basis of low bid. Because the low bid system rewards the companies that have acquired and accumulated the resources over the years in which black companies were excluded. So and you reward them. Wait a minute.
Just go back and say that one more time, because
the low bid system.
Okay.
The low bid. The reason that you're able to submit a bid lower than mine is because you have resources that I don't have.
That's correct.
Robert Clay used to say all the time he can't bid against Joe Hawk, which was one time a major trucking company, because Hawk has 300 trucks that are paid for, and my 30 I'm still making a note payments on.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So Joe Hawk, go ahead, John.
I know a lot is coming at you in the sense of making sense of this minority business thing. What do you understand?
Who are you talking to?
Cavett Kane.
Okay.
What do I understand about what's going on with minority businesses?
This conversation in particular, yes.
Oh, that minority businesses are not receiving the same consideration when contracting comes up because of their circumstances, and that they're not in a position where they can actually, as Mr. DeShields just said, bid on those contracts competitively because of their current financial situations, being in debt, not having the financial resources to be able to carry out their duties on the lower bid for a contract. I mean,
and you understand that in a majority black city like Baltimore, this is egregious, especially when you talk to a Wayne Frazier, especially when you talk to a Mr. DeShields, because they are right in the middle of the fight. And as you said, we are losing. But it just goes over most of our heads. We think we are to vote Democrat and that's it. But this is where the rubber meets the road, Quebec. That I just wanted to make sure. Mr. DeShields, I defer
Absolutely.
back.
Well, this is where I come into play in terms of what I do with my business. I am a financial liberation expert, and I educate, guide, and support people in their journey to self-sufficiency. If we can do that on an individual level in our community, then we will be able to do that on a business level in our community.
We should be able to. But Mr. DeShields, I defer back to you, sir.
You've got to change the structure. You've got to eliminate the structural impediments to minority. You've got to come up with an alternative to the whole low bid system.
Right.
And mind you, when that happens, that doesn't just open up new business to Black companies. It opens up to a lot of companies that in other words, it makes it a better system for everybody. Once you do that, but nobody wants to see, because we don't really focus on what the real role of government is. The government's role is not to save money. The government's role is not to be efficient. The government role is to make sure that those who have don't take too much advantage of those who don't.
Right.
That's the role. That's the proper role.
That's sad. That is a sad commentary. That's a sad commentary. That's a sad commentary.
Look, the rich folk don't need government, do they?
Right.
No.
Jeff Bezos don't need government. Oprah don't need government. What the hell they need government for? They make more money overnight than Baltimore City's annual budget is. Okay, they don't need it. I'm the one. I need it. You guys, I think you guys. I don't know. I can't count your money. I need it. See for me. I'm the one who needs the government because without government, those who have acquired by whatever means the wealth and the resources will act like I don't exist. Means I'll be invisible, and that's the problem.
And that's where those mentorship relationships come into play, right? Where you're talking about being
no. Let me put the kibosh on that. Okay. It is absolutely ludicrous to believe that I, who have money, am going to mentor you to the point where you can compete against me.
Right.
They
don't care.
I mean, come on. Let's leave some place in the room for common sense. Am I really going to help you so that you can harm me?
And take my money.
I'm not going to do that.
And just take my money.
If I appear to do it, it's only so that I can control you, so that I can control your growth, so that I can control your thinking, so that I can control the resources that you have access to, so that I can watch you. But it ain't so that you can become like me. That's never been my goal.
Don't even try.
Well, then that goes back to my original question for Mr. Frazier, which was talking about when you initially talked about why don't Black businesses know how to run business, or why don't Blacks know how to run business? The question is, if we're looking for the community that has been oppressing Black businesses for centuries at this point in time to now grow Black businesses, how is that going to happen? So where then would Black businesses get this knowledge and information in order to be able to grow?
It's a very good question.
Well, as Bob said, the wealthy don't need government, but majority of us do. And the idea is that if one wins a major contract of $1 million or more, then you are to bring on a protege and assist them with the knowledge that they're seeking. It could be a number of areas. In management, could be advertising, could be marketing, could be financial, whatever, bookkeeping, but you're supposed to uplift that. If you don't, then you won't be eligible to win another contract.
Those sound like areas of business that Black businesses have already been working in. We do marketing, we do communications, we do bookkeeping. I mean, I'm a financial advisor. So then what is it exactly that you're saying Black businesses don't?
No. I'm talking about the owner of the business, not an employee, but the owner. The owner needs a certain sophistication in order to be successful, not just know-how of doing a certain skill or performing a certain project. They need to understand the intelligence of running a business, what it's required, what's required.
Okay, well, isn't that just hiring people that are smarter than you to do the jobs that you need to get done?
Yeah, and they take all your money, they embezzle from you. I mean, it's just the owners need that sophistication and understanding in order to take their business to scale it to another level.
So Wayne, do you do training for these leaders in these corporations that are your membership? So do you have like a training, leadership kind of training program?
No,
for
no,
small businesses?
no. My job is that of a connector and then a protector. Connector meaning I connect you with who has the opportunities, and protector meaning I make sure you get paid. With those two things, that's it. I can't do any more.
But you're not an educator. But you're not. You wouldn't consider yourself.
He's a businessman.
Right. Right. So you would not consider yourself the educator. So then where would you suggest these Black businesses go in order to get this education? Because as has been stated, these white-run companies.
So let's get an answer. Let's get an answer. Where do they go to get help?
Well, I would think God bless the 2008 financial shutdown, which forced Goldman Sachs to establish, because they were corporate criminals, but it forced them to establish their program called the Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Business. It's free.
And so then you're going back to the same ineffective.
It teaches a business owner how to manage their business. That's what they need. They need to understand how to manage their business. Scheduling, budgeting, discipline, so forth.
And there are no Black resources for that?
Pardon?
There are no Black resources available for that.
Bob might know, but I don't know any of them.
Let me play devil's advocate here for a minute. I understand that Baltimore City, despite these negatives, leads the country or is among the leaders in the country when it comes to minority business participation at our dismal percentage. Is that correct?
I don't understand that.
If it is, it's a sad commentary. If it is, it's a sad commentary. First of all, when Donnie, you can't use words like minority around me because I'm talking about Black business.
Right.
Who's doing
the concept of minority business? Pardon?
Who's serving Black businesses? What city is serving Black businesses better than Baltimore?
I'm sorry.
It's not a comparative analysis because this is the only place where I live. So I don't really care, and I don't know. But so I'm going to focus on the place where that's within my reach, so to speak. And the fact of the matter is, see, I don't think we start with what the white companies are willing to do for us. I think the real problem is too many Black companies don't know about Kivette. Too many Black companies don't come to Kivette for knowledge. She has the knowledge, but we're not going to come to her because because white folks don't have it anointed her. Apparently, I guess. They haven't said that she's the go-to person. What you mentioned earlier on, Park Sausage and Ray Hayes. I mean, those folks were clients of mine, but they weren't clients of mine until they found out that I had white clients. Wow. That's when they came. Okay, that
was a big lead
until the time it went public and became owned by Franco Harris and Lydell Mitchell, and then sold it back to the company that owns the narrative. But I represented them all those years. But not before they found out that I also at one time did work for Willard Hackham and the Whiting and Turner. So that's when, in other words, once they understood,
you got to pay.
White folks said that I had something of value, that I was valuable, and that's our problem with our own people. I'll say it, and I'm going to stop. If the good Lord decided one day to take white folk off the face of the earth, at least in this country, within 48 hours, 7% of Black folk will commit suicide.
That's extreme.
Not me.
No, I think where we are today in the world is that we are creating and trying to find that fundamental and foundational space where we can become the resource or become the source rather for the resources. There's always in the Black community has always been, okay, you got a resource, but then you got to go out to another community in order to find the source to feed into that resource. So for us, it's about building that foundation and finding the fundamental how can we be the source? How can we be the end of the chain or the beginning of the chain for where we get this knowledge, for how we implement it, and then how we're able to continue to grow with it.
Kivette, again, the problem is access to the business. Part of the knowledge that Wayne is talking about, and there are many companies that have that don't have all the skills that they need and so forth. Nobody did. That was a first for everybody. Okay, nobody came into the world inherently superior to others, notwithstanding what white folks may believe, and unfortunately what a lot of black folks still believe. The fact of the matter is, if we don't change the method of award of the contracts, as long as we stay wed to this notion that we must give it, except in rare cases, to the low bidder, black folk are never going to achieve or have the position in the economy as a whole that we want. It can't. It's not designed for that to happen that way.
And how do you get to a point where you are looking in the system for not just the lowest bidder, but for the best qualified bidder?
Well, you have, that's right. You have to have and know what your objective is, and you have to plan to achieve that objective and not have it happen by happenstance. Right. Oh, it just happened to be that. So yes, you and the fundamental problem, the impediment that there is to increasing the participation of black business is you can't get through the door that's shut tight on the competitive bidding issue. And that's because we've got people thinking that the proper role of government is to save money. Now, who does that really benefit? The people who have the money already.
Right. Okay. Right. And so the question is what is government? Because when you look at the government, as has been established, on many shows here, that government has been established in order to give guidance for the people, right? And it's been put together by the people. Right. And so for us, when I think about places like, Black Wall Street in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and other, business centers like that who've existed, hundreds of years ago, then we're trying to understand, okay, so they were the source for themselves. They didn't go outside of their community to look for somebody else to give them a handout in order to build their business. They came together and they built their businesses and they established their own community, and it was done.
And that's because black folk didn't have a choice at the time. When we arrived, when we became,
we still don't have a choice. Right.
When we became integrated, when the doors of Ruth Chris and McCormick were open, we didn't need Sampsons and Cessas anymore, right? We had to show that our money, because we could spend our money anywhere we wanted to. Right. And where do we want to? Not in our own community. That's right. When we want to give money today, we want to give it to the Baltimore Museum of Art, not to the Reginald Lewis Museum.
But that's what this whole day is about. This is MLK, Martin Luther King Day. It is an opportunity for us to remember that we are the ones who are going to rescue ourselves. We can't be looking outside of our community as someone else to be the source for our resources. We have sources in our community, but we've got to bring those sources together as a conglomerate to be able to benefit the resources and then continue to grow from that point.
The President's Roundtable, when I first moved to Baltimore.
You're muted.
Excuse me. The President's Roundtable, Brenda Goburn-Smith hired me, and I worked with her, and she was the executive director. And that's where I had the privilege of meeting all of those incredible Black businesses, from Ray Haysbert, Joe Haskins.
Okay, what's the point?
The point, let me finish, don't interrupt. The point that I'm making, if you would be quiet, the point that I'm making is these people would sit in those meetings and sit down and develop the strategy. They would sit down and we would be in another room, but you could hear it all. They're sitting down talking about how they're going to work together to get these different contracts. And it was a strategic plan that got Ken Wilson over there running that whole marina. It was a strategic plan that got Fullwood. So all I'm saying is, with what we currently have, how do you bring that together, develop a plan, present it to the city and the state and whatever other entities to make certain that a percentage must be part of the edict of this city?
So is that a question to anybody in particular?
It was a question. It wasn't even a question. It was really a statement. And the reality is that we now have to be able to take it and make it a question and how it's going to get resolved.
Mr. Frazier, moving forward, what do we do? We have a new mayor. We have 4 years of him. We have a lot of rhetoric. Where does the rubber meet the road?
Well, I think that our new mayor, he must seize the moment, bring in Bob the Shields, a few others, but not many. Bob is capable enough, and expand on recommendations that Bob shared this morning. One, about the lowest bid. I provided him with 10-point steps on how to improve opportunities based on the current laws in the city to improve African-American, not minority business, but African-American business participation. It's a 10-point plan that I came up with. I had it published in the Baltimore Sun and in the Business Journal. But to this point, by the way, Bob, were you part of his transition team?
No.
Nor was I. There's a reason for that.
Right.
There's a reason for that. Because unfortunately, the powers that surround him, they don't want to change.
What powers?
Well, you have the Martin O'Malley's of the world. You have, what's his name? The guy, Jim Shea, who's coming in as the new city solicitor.
I understand Jim Shea has governor goals. He wants to be governor of Maryland. Have you heard that?
Well, he ran for it.
Yeah, well, so does Brandon Scott want to be governor. There's nothing wrong with that. But again, I just don't see change taking place, period. And I got 2 years to go. I'll be 70. I'm out of here. I'm retiring. I'm out of here. So if you don't utilize the resources of a Bob the Shields and a Wayne Frazier now, then the city is doomed. And I'm not saying that I am the best, but I do know this. I've suffered enough pain, and my clients have suffered enough pain where I know how to create change for the better. That's all I have to say on that.
So where's the President's Roundtable in all of this? They are the Black elite business group, correct? Well over $1 million, $2 million in sales revenues each year.
Donnie, they're not like the old guys that Marcia mentioned.
At all.
So that means that we've gotten dumber. We've got more degrees. We live in fancier houses. We got bigger cars. But we're failing to work together, right? I just want to make sure I got it right. That integration has afforded us to not need each other anymore, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Well, I guess we're all doomed. I guess that's a wrap for this show.
Well, I don't think we're doomed, and if they are, I'm just going to leave here trying to change it because I don't have anything better to do with whatever days I have, whatever time I have left. But Donnie, there's certain other fundamental understandings that we've got to make, and most people when they say they're thinking, they're really regurgitating something they've heard. They're really not thinking. But we've got to consider what is the real importance of a business, any business, black or what's the real significance of it?
To make a profit.
Is it so that the owners can join the President's Roundtable, or can they buy new memberships at the Center Club or wherever? No. The real benefit to any community of business is the employment opportunity that it makes available to the people who live in the area where the business operates. That employment opportunity is only important if it provides sufficient and adequate compensation for the employees to support their families. That's what this is really all about. We don't need more $15 an hour jobs in a city where it takes $20 an hour to support yourself. What do we need that for? I don't even want another black business that's going to pay $10 an hour.
So let me ask you,
move it to Virginia. I don't care.
So we're clear that Baltimore has no plan to help black businesses. Does Baltimore have a plan to help mainstream businesses, multinationals? Because it's my understanding We have zero multinationals here in Baltimore.
Well, first of all, I didn't say that Baltimore doesn't have a plan to help black business. I don't know if by Baltimore you mean the political administration. I've never had the conversation with Brandon about that, so I don't know what its plan is. But
if you, Mr. Frazier, haven't been contacted, isn't that a good indication that minority business is not a priority?
Or I'm willing to think that there are other people that they could talk to that could give them some insight other than me. I mean,
like who? Let me ask you, and this is only fair, would it be Alicia Wilson? Alicia Wilson was a big supporter of Brandon. She was big on the Port Covington project, as noted by Mr. Frazier earlier. But now I'm understanding that after the city council and the former city council and mayor supported Port Covington, you're now telling me that it's a flop.
Well, listen, education you get in school, wisdom you get through experience.
Right.
All right. There's a lot of educated folks around, not many that have the experience to take that education and convert it to wisdom in a way that it can be applied.
Well, we were told that
Port Covington is going to flop because its primary credit relationship that undergirds it was Under Armour. Under Armour is taking a terrible hit. Right?
That the entire city council.
Port Covington was going to become its own city.
Yeah, that was the intent, of course. But,
no, right.
And it had no black people in that future.
No.
That wasn't
or interested in having any black folks up in it.
There was no Wakanda. It was not Black Panther.
Oh no!
It didn't even have a mask to put on a stick to sit in front of the entry.
And as I mentioned before, here's the detriment. Here's the detriment from a Port Covington, even beyond the lack of participation, even beyond the lack of inclusion. What Wayne talked about tax increment financing. Let me explain to you what that really means. What that means is that the increased real property taxes that would ordinarily come from an improvement in the value of real property. You know, you got $100,000 house, you pay $10. You got a $200,000 house, you pay $20. Well, Baltimore City, like most other jurisdictions, depends on real property tax to support education. That's the primary local fund. In fact, it is exclusively, really, the funding source for education. Now, when the state, under the state's formula, the state will reduce its commitment based upon the revenues that are projected that the city's projected to receive from real property taxes.
So we're losing money on something we don't have.
Exactly. Exactly.
But our city council and former mayor voted for this.
Yeah,
well,
man.
You had to vote for it. You had to vote.
Why? Because they took the money from Under Armour?
Well, I don't know about that, but
no. Under Armour put money in politicians' pockets. On the city council, they donated money to every person on the city council. That's my understanding.
Yeah, but that's the way it is in America. But the point is, we cannot stop growth. If you don't grow, you die, and that is potential growth there.
So they took money from a business that is not worth what it was worth. And now we're all on the hook for it, correct?
Yeah.
Basically.
The same thing happened with the convention center.
Right.
Same thing happened with the convention center. This is an old song.
Somebody doesn't know what they're doing. That's the impression I get.
What does that mean? Somebody doesn't know. What do you mean? Who doesn't know? Somebody.
The city council and the mayor don't know what they're doing.
Oh, is that what you said?
Well, in my opinion, I don't know whether they know what they're doing or not. But when they think about the city, they're not thinking about the same city that you and I are talking about.
What city are they talking about?
They're talking about a difference. The city that they're talking about improving is not the part where
is that a different zip code? Is that a different zip code?
Different zip code completely. That's why when people talk to me about I want to help the city, I have them identified by zip code because I need to know we talking about the same thing. A lot of people use the same words, meaning entirely different things.
That's exactly right. And it's understood.
Yes, it's the dog whistle approach.
Yes, it's understood. The real game is that they sit around and they have these conversations. All these big major corporations in the city. They sit around and they have the conversations of what they're not going to do, and they're very clear, and becomes a standard.
This is what I don't understand. I don't understand how we have blacks as the mayor, as the city council president, as the comptroller, as the speaker of the house, as delegates, state senators. We've got more black elected officials, Mr. DeShields, I would venture to say, than most any other city in America. But what has it translated into for us, the people?
What do you mean by black?
Oh,
black.
That don't get it. You're not black just because you're non-white.
Well, that comes down to, and you're absolutely right about that. There's uncomfortable conversations with a black man that really brought out the idea and understanding that it's about culture. It's about understanding black culture. It's about understanding white culture. It's about understanding a foreign culture, if that's where you're from, or that's what you've been exposed to. And there are, some folks who, in the black community, or because they have black skin, then you're automatically assumed that this person is for your culture. And that's not necessarily the case.
So, Mr. Frazier, what is your plan moving forward as it relates to the Maryland Washington Minority Companies Association in the year 2021? This is Dr. King's birthday. Kavetta has alluded to the economic justice, the civil rights that Ray Haysbert often alluded to versus civil rights. What foreseeth you?
Well, my priorities will be to get those who associate with MWMCA as many new opportunities as I possibly can. You're aware that the BDC is come out with an RFP for the new arena downtown. It's serious. They're going to replace the old chicken place with something new. And that's going to be billions of dollars spent there. So my job will be to get those who are associated with me, because I can't fight for everyone, but those who are associated with me, opportunities in and around the DMV. My clients extend to Washington, D.C., with the airport, with the water, with Pepco, with all of the utility companies, with the casinos. So it's a wide variety of clients that I have on the corporate side. And my job is to get my folks connected and associated with them.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that area. Prince George's County is noted as the wealthiest, or one of the wealthiest black jurisdictions in the country. And that's certainly within your catchment area. Are black businesses in PG County faring better?
Well, again, Donnie, I don't know the statistics, but I can say this, that there are more of them there. I don't know if they're doing any better, because again, I told you in Baltimore City, and Bob said there's 3, I only know of 2 that have revenues of 20 million or more. Perhaps in Prince George's County, there may be a few more, but not many more.
What happened to the era of Marion Barry? Why hasn't that been extended? Why don't we have more black mayors like Maynard Jackson that understand that their political position is supposed to translate in the economic empowerment of the black community?
Harold Washington, Coleman Young.
Well, I think they grew up in a time, if you recall, Barry was a disciple of Martin Luther King. And they grew up in a time where there was a commitment to growth for black folk. That was all lost. Bob mentioned that, heck, none of those black businesses would do business with him unless he had white clients. I mean, they grew up in a different era, and I don't see the
Reconstruction. It was just a few years ago.
Still, John, we got a new generation. I mean, Brandon Scott is 36, 37. That's a whole different generation from us. That's the age of my kids. So
what's that got to do with the issues Black people have been facing since the European first arrived on these shores?
They see things differently, Donnie, than what we do, what Bob and I do. I mean,
how?
They deal with the issues of basic assimilating. Right now, it's easy for them. They can go to any school. Look, back in the day, if a Black guy dated a white girl, he would be lynched. Today, it's okay. Look at all of the commercials that come on. White guys with Black girls, Black girls with white guys.
Have you ever walked with a white girl down in a harbor on Sunday at 3 p.m. in Baltimore? So I don't know the picture they painting of this post-racial society, but the sisters in Baltimore might throw a bottle at the back of your head if you come down the harbor with a white.
Okay, well, beyond that, the question would be then, has diversity watered down the focus that Black people have on growing their own community? You know, and I hear what you're saying in terms of the focus being on, you know, integration and focusing on pulling together, you know, with other communities. But if you're focusing on growing together with other communities, then does that mean that we have lost the focus on growing our own community?
Yes.
That's the question.
A long time ago. A long time ago.
Yes. Yes. Next question.
A long time ago.
Well, the next question is, can we check the next question?
How do you come back? How do you bring it back? How do you come back around?
Can we get it?
Right.
And it's one day at a time, one heart at a time, one mind at a time.
Right.
How
do you bring people together?
I thought this was going to be a hopeful, optimistic interview. Damn, I'm depressed and sadder than the Ravens lost.
Well, Donnie, these are depressing times, and I mean, I applaud you, all of you optimistic folks, but I don't see it. I just don't see it.
I see a future. I see a young man that's a new mayor who has an opportunity to really change Baltimore. And I think it's up to us and others.
Why do you say that?
Because I think that he is young, he's energetic, and I think he's open to conversation. And you have to go and present what you want to him to be able to go and move forward.
Come out.
If you were to sit and look at all these different organizations to come together and develop a strategy and give it to him and talk to him about it.
He's been living in this city too. He says it's open as a minority business. He should have seen something in his 10, 12 years down at the city council as it relates to minority business, else he should have never went for the mayorship.
That's exactly why he did go for the mayor's chair. He saw something and he ran and won. So the people of the city voted for him in order for him to be in that office. So they saw something in him that said that he was going to stand up for them. Now, the challenge is he had to find the person who was going to be able to carry that out. Just like the CEO of a company cannot do every job himself, you got to find a person who's going to be the employee, the entrepreneurial employee, to take on the responsibility.
So let me get your fact, Ms. Payne. We're not sure he won the election. I'm not.
I think I'm looking at.
If you watch the election,
I'm looking at positive. I'm going to be positive.
I'm looking at reality.
Well, I'm looking at positive, and that the reality is that we have an opportunity with somebody that is sitting in and has ideas.
From the same people with Kathy Pugh, they said all of these wonderful things, and meanwhile, she knocked us off for $1 million, and she went from one house to another in Ashburton and walked around like her poop didn't stink. And all of them Black people got embarrassed messing with her.
I'm not going there. I'm going to talk about today and tomorrow. And I see.
You don't learn from the past.
If I don't see a future, then there's no need of me even living in Baltimore.
Right. If there's no hope, what's the point?
I don't blame. First of all, I know Brandon. I like Brandon. I don't blame Brandon's generation for the gap between that generation and mine. My generation dropped the ball. We arrived and we said to everybody else, I got mine, you got yours to get. Okay.
What generation are you?
And so therefore, our most valuable resource, the most valuable resource for any people was cut off. That is the connection with your elders.
The source.
It's a connection with your elders.
Why is that?
Absolutely.
And why is that? Why was there a disconnect? What happened?
Because I bought into the notion that what white folk had was better for me than what I
Oh,
could get
white
for
water's
myself.
hotter, colder.
Oh,
No,
okay,
maybe
okay.
buying into the notion that
So
you,
I
what
want
you
to
said,
lighten
like
the
you
load a
said,
bit. I want to lighten the load a bit.
All right.
We all got revved up.
We're changing the subject.
We're changing the subject. By the way, Quebec, you picked up a new fan. It looks like Michael Singletary wants to marry you. Okay.
Mr. Abu, hi.
Michael Singletary, isn't he a running back or something for somebody?
No, I think it's the Michael Singletary from James Mosier Baseball. See, we got all of these sidebar comments. These guys, for whatever reason, are too scared to come on the show. But anyway, Mr. DeShields, I want to lighten your load. I want you to sit back, and I guarantee to make you smile. Abu the Flutemaker, how are you, Abu? Salaam alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
How old are you, big brother?
I'm just 80.
How old?
I'm just 80.
Just 80. You're still young.
Yeah, I
that's
feel
right, just 80.
I understand that you are in the Guinness Book of World Records.
oh wow. Is that right?
Are you?
I don't know, maybe I could be.
How many instruments, how many musical instruments have you made in your life?
I don't know, man. I probably made thousands. I made so many instruments. I made all kind of flutes, saxophone,
and welcome to DPW's first special trip.
marimbas, kalimbas, and a whole lot of strange, one-of-a-kind musical instruments that no one ever seen.
Where are they?
Pardon me?
Where are all these instruments?
They're right here where I'm sitting. I mean, they're in this room that I'm sitting.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, maybe I can walk my camera around. That might help show you some of them. Oh boy, I'm tied up here.
Okay, don't be careful now.
Okay.
I got online and saw all the work that you've been creating, all the different instruments and flutes out of the pipes and all of that stuff. It's amazing.
Oh, thank you.
You got quite a workshop there.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. We need to have some of your work in that Reginald Lewis Museum.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm supposed to be Zooming in with them today.
Oh.
12:30.
At 12:30? So I got to watch that.
Between 12:31, I don't know. They're going to squeeze me in with a few of my instruments.
I love it.
And oh boy, I should have had this phone posted on a tripod so I could get something.
That's okay. We're seeing stuff in the back. We're seeing a few of them, but we also can go up online and see. So I want you to go sit down and get yourself comfortable. And then I'm a forward them. I thought it might be a little easy to get one or two of them and just pick it up. But people can go online on YouTube.
Yes,
and we can see. Look at that. That's what I'm talking about. That's your version of a saxophone or what?
I call it a plumber phone.
I love it. A plumber phone. I love it.
Saxophone. It's the impossible sax. It's made out of plumbing tubing, and I don't know if you can see. There's one behind me.
Yep, it's hanging up on the thing,
Yeah.
and it's like that. Yes, it's fabulous.
I call it impossible.
This is impossible. So, what gave you the idea to create these instruments? What happened, sir?
Well, I'm in the middle of the night. I get an idea. I jump up out the bed and I start getting busy. I've been. I guess I have about 75 or 80 different instruments that I've created out of found objects. I have a bass harp that's from a garbage can. And I don't know.
Yes, I can see it. Oh my goodness. That's wonderful.
I have, well, maybe let me pan some of this stuff. I don't know if you can see that.
I can.
Yes.
Oh, that's wonderful.
nice.
That's like is that an organ or something, or like a piano thing?
Yeah, it's a xylophone.
Xylophone. Yeah.
Xylophone.
I have one made out of mirrors.
Oh my goodness.
Wow.
That's beautiful.
Those little red things down on the floor that looks like drums. They are drums, but I made them look like watermelons.
What are they made of?
They're made out of army helmets.
What?
Wow.
And beside them is a baseball bat that sounds like a saxophone.
How did you get these ideas to create this? What happened in your life for you to turn all of these found objects into instruments?
Well, when I was 31 years old, a friend of mine came back from overseas. He was in China, and he had this flute. And he said, try to play it. And I couldn't play it because I'd never even seen a flute that looked like that before. It had a little claw-like look on the end where you blow it like a goat's paws.
Okay.
So I tried. I couldn't get no sound out of it. But when he got ready to leave, I said, let me try it again. And when I tried it this time, it went off. And not only did it go off, to my amazement, I started playing a song on it right away without practicing. I started playing my favorite song. And I love it. Yeah. Before that day, I never knew I had perfect pitch. I never knew I could play an instrument. I blew my own mind. I learned something about myself I never knew. That's why I tell the young people that I work with, never say what you can't do until you try.
Right.
And that day completely changed my life. At that time, I was working for a city. I was working for Baltimore City as a sign painter. And I quit my job because after that, noise became notes. I started making instruments out of all types of found objects. I was in college for a while, and I started hearing people talk, and I could hear their voice. I say, "You're talking in the key of C sharp. Are you in Aries?" Yeah. And then I found out later that everybody had a particular keynote that they talk in. And Sagittarius is F, and Virgo is C. Cancer is Libra is D. Aquarius is A. Capricorn is G. Sagittarius is F. So what I did with this.
Wait a minute, you didn't say Pisces. Hold on.
She said she's listening for herself.
He's a Pisces. He knows Pisces.
Pisces, I gotta know Pisces. That's me. Pisces is B. B natural. That's Pisces. All Pisceans talk, sing in the key of B. It doesn't matter your age. It doesn't matter your race. You could be a little Chinese boy in your room and you say hum, and you both would hum in the same note.
Now with the Pisces, that B is for, what's the B for?
The B is the Pisces keynote. And
it's not for BS.
Boy, go sit down.
Stop.
Okay. Abu, you are starving us. You're starving us.
Oh my goodness. Well, let me let you go. But anyway.
No, we need to hear you. We want music. We want music.
I was saying that all of you treat yourself to
Abu, we're not done. I want you to play something.
Oh,
please.
Okay.
He's so cute.
Pop up some kind of way.
Yeah, the last time, folks, we did a video with Abu, it was heard around the world. Am I right, Abu?
That's right.
We had people chiming in from Europe, Africa, Asia, all over the world for Abu, the flute maker, straight out of Baltimore, the original park drummer.
Right. I was the first drummer for the park. And those drums now they call the Park Vibe. I was in Druid Hill Park in 1952. I was 12 years old. My mother said, "Boy, this noise you just playing, you're getting on my nerves. The park is right up the street," because I lived on Madison Avenue, across the street from where Cab Calloway used to live.
I love it. That's the year I was born, 1952.
Oh my goodness. Well, that's when I first went to Drill Hill Park with the drum. This instrument that I have here, I call it a claraboo instead of a clarinet. I made it from, you're not going to believe this, a table lamp. The bell
Wow.
on a bicycle on that has the little squeeze ball on it. I set a bell into the bottom of the table lamp post. I put a copper tubing in to hold the alto saxophone mouthpiece. This is what
Beautiful. I love it. Thank you.
We understand. Abu, we understand that you can make a musical instrument even out of a straw.
Oh, yes. I've been working with them, and I show them how to play music with a soda straw. Let me get a straw real quick.
So adorable. I love this. Oh, now you're going to sing. You going to sing for us?
Well, yeah, I can sing for you too.
I bet you can.
You take a straw, you smash the end, you cut the corners off, and you put it in your mouth like this.
That is too cute.
And if you cut it off, it gets louder.
You got louder.
So what made you decide to turn all these instruments? That's amazing to me.
I don't know if you see this.
A kalimba.
Yeah, it's a kalimba made out of a sardine can.
What?
Oh, wow.
And bobby pins. I got those large bobby pins and a sardine can.
I love it.
Nice.
You are brilliant.
And I have here.
He's too cute. He's too cute.
So creative.
What? Oh, that's beautiful.
This is
I was
made.
going to say a handbag.
The drawer, I put a drum skin on the bottom and a button to hold in a single string.
Okay.
You change the note by squeezing, and you tune it up here. And flip it up.
What was your inspiration to make that?
Well,
he told you, his mother told him, get out the house.
I saw an African instrument, and it had one string, and well, it had a lot of strings on it, but it was plucking the strings, and but I came up with the idea. I knew the note would change if I was to bend the note with the two bars on the side.
Mm-hmm.
So ideas just flow through my head. Ideas about the things that makes noise of sound. I have I got a little xylophone in there. It's made out of mirrors, but you would never believe that this was made from mirrors. If you heard some of these instruments behind partition, you would never believe what you're listening to. I'm going to grab another quick little piece here.
He's so cute. I love him.
Absolutely. Yeah, creativity. I mean, you know, our kids today, this is the kind of creativity that needs to be encouraged.
No question. And we need to be having it in our schools.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So what is this?
This is an instrument that's made from a transmission funnel. You put the fluid in the car.
Right.
And these little black funnels, they cost $3. Standard autos, advanced autos, transmission funnels. And what I did, and I didn't, this wasn't, a lot of people say, was this trial and error? No, it wasn't. I just grabbed a mouthpiece, an alto mouthpiece happens to fit on the end of the funnel perfectly. All I had to do was put holes in it. But listen what it sounds like.
What?
I love that sound. It's so rich. Sam.
If ever I something, if ever I da 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 da. That's amazing.
That is absolutely.
Abu, did you give the plumber some? Did you give the plumber some? You got to give the plumber some.
That's right. I want to hear that impossible sax.
Unbelievable.
Wow.
Da, da, da.
These are a few of my favorite things.
When my dog bites. And you know, we're over here singing now. We were singing in B and whatever.
Now I want to hear the band.
Right. Donnie, how did you meet him? He's wonderful.
He's a Baltimore legend.
I love it. Does he live in West Baltimore?
Yes.
He's amazing.
Oh boy.
He's got to be on the museum's having a show at 12 o'clock, he said.
Oh,
so we need to figure that out.
Okay.
That's going to be a while for me. Let me see if I hook this up for you. I want you to hear this. Well, you can. Oh, boy. Come on up here. I got so much stuff going on.
We could have him back on a regular basis, playing his different little music. Do you sell your instruments?
Yeah, I would love to do that. Let me see. I want you to hear. This is what the children request all the time. Yeah.
And I can only imagine how encouraged and inspired the kids are when they hear the music and when they see these creative instruments out of, you know, common things that they could actually create themselves.
I hear you humming over there. He got you inspired.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing I know, right? But the thing is, that is where our motivation for entrepreneurship comes from, our creativity. You know, it's the need for a service or a product in our community, you know, and music is inspirational. Art is inspirational.
Okay.
Can you hear my background?
Yes.
Yeah. Are you dancing?
He's dancing.
I thought I got my friend to go to the. We didn't see an elephant or a cage. Someone had put them all on stage. There was humps and bumps and all kinds of rhyme. No, those elephants wouldn't stay in line. I said, I know just what they need. Let's teach them all to do the Wayne and read. They practice and practice all day long trying to teach those elephants an elephant song. They looked at us with tight lips. just kept on moving those big elephant hips. Elephant dancing is a thing to see. And that's when I noticed they were looking at me. I say, come on, elephants, come on, let's go. And that's one of them stepped on my toe. Oh, see, the elephant stepped on my foot. Elephant stepped on my foot. I said, the elephant stepped on my foot.
I love him.
On my foot. I said, the elephant stepped on my foot. Elephant stepped on my foot. Elephant stepped on my foot. I must give elephant a dirty look. I like to teach, but I got my limits. Elephant dancing is a pretty good gimmick. I looked at my watch. It was late. It was about time to open the gate. The people came in to see the show. Someone said, there's Abu and Maceo. I said, may I have your attention, please? These elephants are about to dance you down to your knees. They're humping, grinding, and swayed all day. Start thinking about after the show. Hey, I said, come on, elephants. It ain't time to eat. We got the crowd up off their feet. We have to keep going for a while yet. Gotta help the owner out of debt. I said, anyway, after this, there's another show. And again, same elephant, same toe. Ooh. On my foot. The elephant stepped on my foot. The elephant stepped on my foot. I said, the elephant stepped on my foot. Elephant stepped on my foot. I said, the elephant stepped on my foot. Elephant stepped on my foot. I must give elephant a dirty look. That old elephant don't like it when you give him a dirty look. No. So now I think I'm going to have to feed that old elephant. Yeah. I think I'll feed that elephant some of this. Elephant stepped on my foot. I think I better go home and soak this baby.
I love
Thank you so much, Mr. Abu,
Oh,
for
my
sharing with
goodness.
us. That was
Thank you.
fabulous.
Mr.
Abu,
Abu, you are
Abu,
wonderful.
we know you have to go, but one last thing.
What's that?
I understand that you learned how to use an iPhone well over the age of 75.
That's right. That's right.
What?
That's
Yeah.
right. I had and my grandson, this is all. He said, Papa Boo, you got to get rid of that flip phone.
He wanted to FaceTime you.
Okay. So I'm getting an iPhone, and I got the iPhone. He told me all the things that the iPhone would do and everything. So I was coming from Towson on the way to Baltimore. I saw the sign that says 83, and across from that, I saw another sign that says Falls Road. I said, Falls Road? I said, I go on Falls Road to McDonald's all the time. I'll take the Falls Road, but I'm not going to take the 83. So I got on Falls Road, not knowing that it was Falls Road going north towards Pennsylvania and not downtown.
Wow. Oh, wow.
I'm riding all late, dark into the night. I saw animals running across the highway. It was dark out there.
Oh, my goodness.
I was running out of gas. And
What?
No.
I know now that if I ran completely out of gas and I knocked on nobody's front door,
Lord.
Martha, bring me my gun and then hit out the door. My iPhone said, like, I got on the phone. I say, hey, Siri, where's the closest gas station? I say, hey, Siri, please direct me, give me direction to Drury Park in Baltimore. And it guided me back home. I was so my grandson, he got that spot. Not going to tell me where to get no gas and how to get back to Baltimore.
I didn't know that part.
That is hilarious.
Oh,
Bro,
Your new best friend, Siri.
Won't save my life. I'm working in a recreation center with kids after I found out that I had this gift in music. And the gentleman that I was working with in the rec center, matter of fact, he was my supervisor. He was from Trinidad and Tobago, and he played steel drums. I said, man, look, can you, I said, look, I'll teach you all I know flute making, and I just want you to teach me how to make a steel drum. So he said, no, I cannot do that. It's my culture. I cannot do it. I got on the internet, YouTube, found out how to make a steel drum. I took what I did. I was gonna make a steel drum and play it for him. And because I found out where to get the steel burls and how to cut it, how to burn it, how to tune it. And then I changed my mind. I said, no, I'm not gonna do that. What I did was I took a steel folding chair and tuned a steel folding chair, and it's a little slices of pie and all that stuff in it, and tuned that it sounded like a real steel drum. Because I tuned it, because I put it in perfect pitch. But I ended up selling it over the years. But anyway, I took the same idea. I went into the thrift store and Goodwill, they had this big pot.
He is too cute. Brilliant.
Pot. And I thought copper, because it had a copper look. I found out later, after messing with it, that it was still copper coated. I said, still? What I did was tuned it. I haven't let you hear what this sounds like. I tuned it. I took this steel pipe. I'm back. Here we go. And I showed the children.
Wow.
Play this. As long as they hit the A note last, everything else they do preceding that would make sense. You can play. As long as you hit the A last, everything else makes sense. Right? It's a nice ending.
Abu, we appreciate you so much. We know you have an appointment coming up. How can people get in touch with you, Abu, the flute maker?
All right. I hope they can get my number is 443-814-464.
One more time.
443-814-7464.
64.
Yeah.
7464.
Yeah.
Now you can sell your instruments?
Yes, I see Mr. People order. I'll show you one other one.
Donnie, this is wonderful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Absolutely wonderful. There's so many jewels in our community.
Watermelon drum.
Watermelon drum. And people buy these.
Nice.
I have a bunch of these.
Wonderful. And you make all of those?
Pardon me?
And you make every one of them?
Yes, yes.
Nice.
It's 11:48.
This is...
Look like a bong, man.
Looks like it's laboratory.
That's a bong.
That's a big bong.
If you close the bottom off, I guess you can turn it into a bong very easily.
Oh, Lord. that comes from Abu's music laboratory.
It's too cute.
Who needs brownies?
Of different types and sizes.
That's awesome. Oh, the cannons. I see. Yeah.
I call it a 10 horn.
Like a tuba.
Abu, we got to run, but we love and appreciate you. You Baltimore's own, the legendary. Let's give him a round of applause, y'all.
Thank you, Mr. Abu.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. With love. Yes, brother.
Thank you for making our day.
Yes.
All right,
Oh my
Marsha, your final thoughts before we get out of here.
There are so many gifts in our community. All we have to do is take the time to look for them and quit looking at all the negative and think about the positive. And as we walk in love and peace and kindness, we'll all be better for it.
Absolutely. And from generation to generation, we have the older ones reaching out to the younger ones, teaching them what they've already learned. As is said earlier, wisdom comes from our experience. We can be as educated as we want to, but without that passing down of wisdom, we know absolutely nothing.
The richer we've become materially, the poorer we become morally and spiritually. We have learned to fly the air like birds and swim the seas like fish. But we have not learned the simple art of living together as brothers and sisters, as Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Thank you for joining us all, and have a powerful Martin Luther King national holiday, birthday Monday, so on and so forth. See you tomorrow.
Thank you.
Good
Take
morning,
care.
Baltimore.
Good morning, Bob.
Baltimore.